This question on the rock cycle requires you to draw knowledge from how rocks are formed and also have a knowledge of limestone and how specifically limestone is formed. It also requires you to know a little bit about plate movements. That's why it's quite a challenging question, because it ties a lot in. So the question is, describe how limestone forms and becomes a cliff face. So this isn't quite as easy as just saying how sedimentary rock forms, because it's asking about a specific limestone, which admittedly is a sedimentary rock, so most of it will be very similar. And then it asks you, well, how does that rock layer that forms in the ocean become a cliff face? So there's two processes to describe. Well, firstly, limestone is formed from the seashells of animals. And remember, it's a sedimentary rock, so it's formed from sediment, little particles of these shells as they fall and crumble to bits and basically sink to the seabed, like so. So it starts off with shells getting crushed. That creates sediment. That's what this is, little particles of shell or rock. And these form layers on the seabed. So you can see these particles fall down and form layers on the seabed. But obviously this takes a lot of time, so you can see that they're starting to accumulate here, but you have to wait a long time before it starts to build up into a solid layer. So as more and more sediment fall, pressure compacts the layer together, so it basically forms a more solid layer. And then minerals in the water, so minerals dissolved in the water, chemicals in the water, will get into the pores and cement the layer together. So now we've got a solid rock layer of limestone. So all this has answered the first part of the question, describe how limestone forms, but we haven't talked about how it becomes a cliff face. So to review, shells get crushed, create sediment, which forms layers on the seabed. Over time, pressure compacts layer together. Minerals in the water cement layer together. So finally, how do we get a cliff? Well, it requires plate movements. So imagine a plate here, and it carries our limestone rock here. Now, if you remember, convection currents in the mantle basically move the plates, these currents of circulating heat. So these convection currents will move these plates towards each other, and one may rise over the other, like so. And now the limestone rock layer is above water, we see it as a cliff. But all you have to say is plate movement forces the layer out of water. You could reference convection currents if you wanted, but you don't have to. Now in these 6-mark questions, it doesn't get marked according to the number of points you make. It's about explaining things with accuracy, with good spelling and good grammar. For example, you could probably still get 6 marks if you sacrifice one of these sentences like this one. But you can only get 6 marks if you deal with both parts of the question. So more or less describe in full detail how limestone forms, and obviously talk to us about how it becomes a cliff face.